It's a big football weekend out in Eugene for the Oregon Ducks, which means it's also a big recruiting weekend as well. Some big names on campus, and that's what we're going to discuss in this video. We'll start with the first big name official visitor. It's Jackson Cantwell, the #1 overall prospect in America. And about a week ago, Steve, if you asked me, I thought Oregon was sitting in a position of power with this visit because he was going to be making that commitment 2 days after this official visit ended on Sunday. But that's no more. He's going to take an unofficial to Georgia now and make that announcement on May 13th. Do you feel like Oregon actually has some ground to make up during this official visit now?
Well, Jackson Cantwell told me last night he still doesn't know where he's going to go to school. So I think Oregon is one of the programs prominent in this process. Obviously, I'm an on-3 RPM in for Georgia, but Oregon, Miami, and Ohio State, 3 programs still really battling. And his relationship with Dan Lanning, that's his best head coach relationship. This will be his second time visiting as a prospect. He'll get a chance to get his mom out there, get a chance to watch him practice. The spring game's going on, so there's going to be a really good environment inside Autzen Stadium. He's going to be around fans that will help add to the environment of the visit. And then certainly where Oregon's at as a program, the opportunities off the field for Oregon and what that represents. I wouldn't be surprised if we're really talking highly about Oregon's position coming out of the visit for Jackson Cantwell. He's going to take one more trip to Georgia. Dialogue remains with Miami and Ohio State. And he's got a lot to weigh before he makes his decision May 13th. I like where Georgia stands right now, but that doesn't mean that we'll like where Georgia stands in a few weeks when he makes his college decision. And Oregon has a chance to make a big move this weekend with another visit to campus with his family.
All right, another #1 player at his position is going to be in Eugene. We're talking about Brandon Arrington, the nation's #1 corner. And Arrington's recruitment, if you watch this channel, it has trended every which way. Almost every school he visits, at some point, it feels like they're going to be the one that lands him. So we know that visits are important to Brandon Arrington. He's very impressionable. He has a great time taking them. But Oregon this weekend, where do you think the Ducks stand with him?
Well, Brandon visits these programs that have great opportunities for him on and off the field. So it's no wonder that he visits Alabama, sees 2 starting corners from California, and has a great relationship with the staff. And while you're talking to him as he just left campus, he could really see himself at Alabama. Yeah. Or same with Texas A&M and Mike Elko and his history of coaching defensive backs. And USC is obviously going to continue pushing for him. And Georgia is in the mix. But I did that on 3 best guess story for 5 stars and a few guys ranked just outside the top 5. And this morning I put Oregon, partly because USC is really loading up in the secondary and I have them trending for another corner right now in Albert Hill IV. But I thought when Brandon Arrington visited Oregon earlier this calendar year, he left campus with the Ducks in pole position. And I feel like coming out of this spring game visit, Oregon's going to make another move for him and he's going to feel at home. And I like the way that it's setting up for him, but he's going to take his official visits and Oregon's going to have to battle. But he's a top target for Oregon regardless of position. I think it's going to be a really good visit this weekend. I still love where the Ducks stand with Davon Benjamin, who visited earlier this week. I have an on-3 RPM for Oregon for the #2 corner in the country as they battle Miami, Georgia, and USC for him. And then Brandon Arrington, I just think ultimately, and then combining intel with colleague Chad Simmons, West Coast schools, and then I give Oregon the edge right now in his process.
All right, let's talk about another top 5 player at his position that'll be on campus. Boobie Feaster, wide receiver from Texas, is going to be up in Eugene, and he's also been taking a couple visits this spring. He's got a hot recruitment. How do you see the Ducks fitting in this one?
Wiltfong Whip Around is sponsored by Game Time. Game Time is the hot ticket app for fans that are looking for those last-minute, hard-to-find, hard-to-get tickets. It's tournament season. Looking to be at the biggest games in March with friends or loved ones? Game Time has you covered. And Game Time is about maximizing value. So they're going to find you the best bang for your buck. In fact, right now on my Game Time app, I'm looking for Pacers tickets, an opportunity to see the best players in the NBA. And I'm finding tickets in club level for $23. And there's no hidden fees. Game Time Picks. Curation makes it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. All-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front, which again, no surprise fees at checkout. You get your seat views, get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage. Your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code ON3 ON3 for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Well, he visited Texas A&M for a third time this spring last weekend for the Aggie spring game and had another great time. Texas A&M is arrow up with Ethan Boobie Feaster. LSU remains one of the front runners. That's where my on-3 RPM is, but they have stiff competition. Oregon, they're in the mix for a lot of these wideouts. Now, Feaster's also high on like Miami, USC, Tennessee, to name a few others. And then Oregon's just getting all the best receivers in the country on campus this spring. Feaster, another one where they'll look to move the needle. New receivers coach Ross Douglas is an excellent recruiter. Will Stein with all the Texas ties, that offense, it's exciting for any pass catcher to want to play. And so I think we'll see Oregon really raise the antenna of Feaster and his family this weekend with a visit for the spring game, but they got to make up some ground on some SEC programs right now.
All right, another priority target on campus we got to talk about is defensive lineman Richard Wesley. He's one of these reclassifications. He's from the state of California, 6'4", 250 pounds. He's a reclass. I mean, he should be entering his junior year. Instead, he's going to be entering his senior year. But we know Oregon's made him a priority. What's the chances the Ducks can land him?
Well, I think Oregon was the program to beat going into his reclassification and going into these spring visits. He'd been to Eugene for a couple times, loves it, loves the coaching staff, loves where this program is at and how they prioritize them and how they recruit them. So I still very much could see him in Oregon's class. Oregon has the number 3 class in the country. They're going to make a push for number 1. And I would probably peg them as the front runner in the Richard Wesley sweepstakes, but Texas A&M, USC, certainly there's sources that think USC and Oregon are the top two. Ohio State and Tennessee, all programs that he has a keen eye on. But Oregon's always been well positioned, and I have a feeling he's going to get them warm and fuzzies again when he returns this weekend for the spring game.
All right, Oregon fans, big weekend. How are you guys feeling about Jackson Cantwell? Did this Georgia visit news change anything from you in terms of where you think he's going to end up? Let us know.